What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We are powered by Acorn to Oak and our wonderful friends over at Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clements Bridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey. Even though Labor Day has come and gone, they still give you some best bang for the buck, and they'll take some of your best used sports equipment and more. You can do online shopping. You can do right at the door. Check them out online, open 7 days a week. PlayItAgainSports.com/ Deptford, New Jersey. Week 1 of the NFL finally here. It technically starts tonight. We're going to give you the full slate of games that we like. With that, we welcome in our good friend who's been with us for many moons, Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game. And of course, you hear him not only with myself on BYP, but you also hear him during the week on The Drive with Q on the Coastal Sports Network. All right, my friend, we kick it off tonight. It was a little brisk. It was a little chilly. Got the little hot toddy. Kansas City, Baltimore, the defending Super Bowl champs. They're laying 3, the second or the third highest total, I should say, behind Philly, Green Bay, and Detroit and St. Louis sits at 46.5. And logic says you go with the home team, the defending champs. But we saw last year the Lions upset the apple cart and pull off a road win in week 1. Does Baltimore do it tonight behind Lamar Jackson, or do you like Kansas City laying the 3 at home?
Well, it's going to be an interesting game, Q, because a lot of these guys in preseason, they've been sitting it out and you really don't know what you're going to get. So, the thing is, Patrick Mahomes is 4-1 versus Lamar Jackson head to head. So you always got to factor that in. And it's a big game, though, for both teams. And they really want to set the tone. I went back and looked last year of the 14 teams that made the playoffs last year. The winners were 9-5. So teams that made the playoffs are 9-5 in week 1. So, week 1 is important. It kind of sets a tone for everything. And I know that the Ravens want to go out there and establish that they're a tough physical team. They brought in Derrick Henry. They want to rush the football. They know that they led the league in rushing the last 2 years. We'll see if Ronnie Stanley and that offensive line is up to the task to make some holes there for him. The passing game, though, they gotta find ways to get the ball into some of their playmakers' hands, particularly Zay Flowers. He has to have a better game. Obviously, he had that huge fumble last time these two teams met that kind
Yep.
of turned that game around. But when I look at the Chiefs, you have Patrick Mahomes. He's got all his weapons at his disposal. Rice is going to be out there. You have Pacheco. And defensively, Spagnuolo seems to have a plan on Lamar Jackson, whether it's spying with Bolton and Reed to safety, but they seem to kind of contain them the last couple times they played. But I expect a good physical game and a close one.
Yeah, listen, I like Kansas City laying the 3 at home. I'm actually going to play the under. You know how I feel. First couple weeks, offenses are always behind the defenses. But I just feel as though people might sit there and say maybe they are just a shot team, meaning they're so exhausted from going back to back and all these Super Bowl appearances and AFC championships and playoffs. I think they're on a mission. We saw what Green Bay did. They won the last title before the merger and then Super Bowl 1 and 2. So technically 3 championships, but Kansas City in the Super Bowl era are trying to not only go back to back to back, but to win 3 straight. But I do like Kansas City at home, laying the field goal. Tomorrow night in Brazil, Green Bay and Philadelphia. Lions pretty much a sat right around 2.5. The total is 49.5. Everyone's very high on Jordan Love. Another season under center at Green Bay. These wide receivers can now catch the football. They think that division's right there for the taking. You got to maybe go through Detroit. And then you got the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the top heavy favorites to not only represent the NFC, but get back to the Super Bowl and perhaps win it right there with San Francisco and Detroit, as I mentioned, coming out of the NFC. I know it's always going to be this, I guess you can say, interesting case study on how fans react if the Philadelphia Eagles lose week 1, right? I don't know how much we want to subscribe to the distraction and what's transpiring over in Brazil and the player saying X, Y, and Z. But I don't like this game. This is my look-see, but don't touch. If you back me in a corner, I actually like Green Bay, and I think Green Bay is going to be able to put up some points tomorrow night. But this is just a game where I'm just going to take a step back. I'll defer to you. But Philly laying the 2.5. You can say at home, but obviously a neutral field.
And I tend to agree with you. They have a long flight getting down there. I forget, it's like over 10 hours or something like that. And you're just not sure because especially with the Eagles, they have not played a lot of their players in the preseason, particularly Jalen Hurts. Uh, they say he's ready to go, and everybody's talking about how great he was in practice, not throwing interceptions. Well, this is live game action, and the Eagles need to get ready. Everything's going to point to the Eagles have their two new coordinators, Kellen Moore, Fangio, and can they get this group over that hump, losing 6 of their last 7 games and looking so bad in the playoffs. But a couple key things for this one, Q. The Eagles are not going to have Devin Smith. I'm sorry, Devin White, their linebacker. He's out with an ankle injury, and then they have Isaiah Rodgers at one quarter. He's not going to play in this game as well with a hand injury. So, big factors for the Eagles in terms of their defense. And we know they struggled last year defensively, finishing 30th in the NFL in terms of points allowed. So, going to keep a big bullseye on this game. Jair Alexander for the Packers. He's going to have to do a good job with this Eagles offensive group. We know they have firepower with AJ and Devontae, and now they bring in Jahan Dotson as well. Don't forget about Saquon. So it's going to be an interesting one. But I kind of agree with you, Q, that the Packers just have momentum coming out the last season. I just have a feeling they're going to come out a little bit fresher, a little bit more ready. And I think they're going to win this one. It's probably going to be a close game, but I'm going to go with the Packers as well.
Yeah, I tend to lean with the Packers as well. Again, it's a Thursday edition of Backyard Play with QBYP. Richard Newman is here. Lloyd Vance. We're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Check the show notes as well for your first order, BYP 20, and get 20% off your first purchase. And we are ready to go. We got the fresh roasted cup of coffee to my right as we kind of go through the gamut of week one. Couple games that we've highlighted. We'll document a little more and go a little more in deep tomorrow in detail on the drive when Lloyd joins me as well from 3 to 5. Arizona and Buffalo. Buffalo, it's a heavy number, 6.5. The total is 47.5. The new look Arizona Cardinals. Everyone's looking at Kyler Murray, perhaps a dark horse MVP candidate, putting up big numbers. We know who they drafted, Marvin Harrison Jr. Buffalo, conversely, loses Stephon Diggs. Are they going to be able to run the ball? Well, we've seen last year Arizona can run the ball, and Buffalo's had a hard time stopping the run. This might be a tricky spot. I think there's a lot of pressure on the Buffalo Bills this season to not only win the division, get to the playoffs, make a deep run, but at least get to the AFC Championship. Arizona, they can be a mixed bag, man. You might sleep on them. They might, win a couple games here and there. That's a heavy number, 6.5.
I tend to agree with you. I thought maybe it was a field goal type game. And the key thing is obviously Kyler Murray's going to have to carry the load for this team. Yes, James Conner's there. You want to see what Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be able to do in his debut and McBride's tight end. But their offensive line has been leaky at best. They've had a lot of difficulty with them. And I think the Bills, McDermott's going to try to get the pressure on them with Ed Oliver and the rest of those guys up front. But the Bills defense, they don't have Matt Milano, and they lost both their corners in the offseason. So, and the rest of their secondaries kind of changed as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this changes for this team. I do expect that Josh Allen will put on the Superman cape like he quite often does, pulls out a late drive. Maybe it's a field goal win, but I don't think the Bills cover that number.
No, that's the most important thing, right? Um, yeah, that's good analysis on that game. I think it'll be a high scoring game. Total is 47.5. The Battle of Florida, Jacksonville and Miami. This was right around 3. Now it's in at 3.5 for Miami at home. They have the second highest game total of the weekend, 48.5. You know how I feel about Miami? I think Miami's poised for a big year. I think they're going to be able to run the football against Jacksonville. I know they paid Trevor Lawrence. Conversely, Miami paid Tua. I think it's all there for Miami to not only take the division, but make that deep run. They started off at home against a inconsistent Jacksonville team. If Jacksonville wants to make an early statement, you go on the road and you beat Miami. But I, the 3 with the hook, I get a little worried. I think it'll be a high scoring affair. I'm actually leaning towards the over in this one. But again, backed in a corner, gun to my head, I'll take Miami in a 3.5. Plus, I'll play the over 48.5 as well. I can see this being a 30-26, 30-23 type of game. Miami win.
I think this one's going to be a shootout because both of these defenses, they're kind of just ramping up, and I think the offense, you just know about all the firepower. The Dolphins have had Waddle back practicing this week, so he's going to be out there with Tariq Hill. They have Mostert, they have a Chan, and Tua's looking like a key distributor of the football. yes, he's not going to run it and this and that, and down the late in the season he plays not at his best, but early in the season he can put up some points. Don't forget they put up a 70 burger early last season in the first couple weeks. So Miami's going to score a lot of points, and the thing is with Jacksonville, just something seems to be amiss with this team. We'll see if Doug Peterson's going to be able to pull out his hat, but I think Trevor Lawrence is going to kind of struggle. He's lost some guys the last couple seasons, and that defense. They do have some quality players, but I think Miami's going to be able to move the football on.
All right, couple games I'm not even glossing over, but New England, Cincinnati, you know how I feel about New England. I mean, think about this, the total's 40 and a half. I mean, Cincinnati makes a statement. They beat them 30-17, right? I mean, that's this New England's going to struggle. Texans and the Colts, it's not really doing much for me. I get it, AFC South battle. Um, but I am interested to get your thoughts on my Giants at home against the Vikings. Now, the Giants are a point and a half dogs. They had to go out and sign Adoree Jackson. They had to shore up the secondary. It's a big year for Daniel Jones. We've talked about it in nauseum. No Saquon Barkley, but they got Neighbors. They got Hyatt. They got Slayton. Singletary's going to run the football a lot. And then you have Minnesota, and we know about their quarterbacking situation. I just kind of chuckle that the Giants opening up a season at home are dogs.
It's going to be an interesting one, Q, because you got Sam Darnold coming back to the place he saw a ghost. Is he going to be able to pick it up now? He has all those weapons on his team, obviously with Aaron Jones there, and he's got Justin Jefferson, the number one wide receiver in the NFL. Um, Is Daniel Jones, though, going to step up, as you said? And a lot of people are not believing him. And I'm hearing whispers that it's also in the front office there. They've already kind of said, all right, we need to get a quarterback going into next season. So, this is a statement game for Daniel Jones. You hate to say that right out the box, but maybe the Giants defense with Dexter Lawrence and Burns, they can get some heat on Darnold, who's known to make some mistakes. So I probably would take the Giants in the points in this one. It's crazy. We're the home dog. I always say that. And, I just think I'm not just ready to say, okay, Darnold's ready to take that step up and be a week in, week out starter.
A couple more before I let you out of here. Dallas on the road against Cleveland. Cleveland laying 2.5. Total is 40 and a half. Again, that is a low total. Everyone talking about Dallas, boom or bust, and then Cleveland and Watson, and here are all the weapons. You're not going to trade, um, Jameson Winston. And, we know they've got some weapons, right? They've got some wide receivers. They can run the football a little bit. Little surprised the total is that low. Man, I'll tell you, if the Eagles lose and then Dallas loses, there's panic in two major markets. This is again, it's a look but don't touch game for me.
And, Dallas is a different team away from the Jerry Dome. And you wonder, CeeDee Lamb going to play in this game? Is he ready to go? I know right now he's on the exempt list. They have like a two-game exemption for
Hmm.
him, and they got to figure out if he's going to play. Uh, they need him in this one because we know the Cowboys' rushing attack, Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, they just don't have much there. So this is going to be an interesting one. I'm going to lean on the Cleveland Browns defense. Myles Garrett and those guys, Denzel Ward. I think they're going to make Dak make some mistakes as he's prone to do on the road, and then they're going to be able to capitalize on it. They won a lot of games last year early, kind of ugly with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. Now they also have to find a rushing game, obviously with Chubb being on the physically uniform list. But I think Cooper and the rest of the guys make enough plays that they'll be able to win this one.
All right, two more, and we'll do a deeper dive into the other games tomorrow on the drive. I am curious to get your thoughts on Commanders in Tampa, only because you got a rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, first career start on the road against Tampa. 3.5 for the Bucks, 42 and a half. We saw what they did last year coming out of the South. They beat the Eagles in the playoff game, had an opportunity to beat the 49ers. Mayfield with that pick late, but this is the new regime now in Washington, right? They've wiped the slate clean. They got the toxicity out with Daniel Snyder and Ron Rivera and Eric Bieniemy, and here you go, Jaden Daniels, franchise quarterback. This is a team that you and I both are high on. Now, with that being said, are you backing your play with Washington week one on the road against Tampa?
So it's tough because Todd Bowles likes playing against young quarterbacks, likes to confuse them. They'll probably use the spy, Antoine Winfield Jr. and the rest of that defense is going to be probably up to the task. It's going to be fun to watch this chess match between Cliff Kingsbury, the offense coordinator, Ty Bowles in that defense. So been back and forth in this one. And like you were saying, I am very high on Jaden Daniels, but he is a rookie. And last year we saw all the first round rookie quarterbacks lose. I think they're 0-10 over the last couple of years, all the first round quarterbacks going into this season. So I'll go with Tampa in a very close game, probably a jump ball to Mike Evans to win it.
Gutless. All right. And he picks them to make the playoffs. Lastly, Rams and Lions. This has the highest combined game total, 52.5. So a lot of people might be playing the over. I am. I see this as a 20, 29, 28. I can see this as a 33-30. I mean, if it's 33-30, I'm happy. 29-28, I need a little work. Obviously, that's not going to hit it, but you get my point. I think both teams have the capability to score late, I should say, in the high 20s, early 30s. Detroit, though, 4.5 at home. The Rams are going to be able to move the football, I think, against Detroit. And a lot of pressure is going to be on Detroit again this year because of what transpired last year, the fourth down play, right call. Again, they just could not convert late against San Francisco. They were up in that NFC Championship game by 14, mind you, and then settled for the field goal. But man, I'll tell you, I'm just going to play the over in this one. I don't really have a dog in the fight, and I just don't like that 4.5.
It's going to be interesting because it's playoff rematch, same venue, same two teams, and typically the last team that has the ball wins this one. So it. I'm saying I'm going to back my play because I said Jared Goff is going to be an MVP. He's going to have a special season. I think he takes revenge once again on the Rams team now. This is going to be a fun one to watch as we go through the season. They may play again, but I think Goff makes just enough plays to win this one. And the Rams defense, I'm still trying to figure out, who's out there. They made trades, and he had Aaron Donald retiring, and so they're still trying to figure themselves out. I think that the Lions pull this one out. It's probably going to be closer than that number, though. Probably a field goal game by their new kicker from the UFL.
Um, yeah, man, I'll tell you, week one scares me a little bit because it is the feeling out process, right? And we always believe that defenses are ahead of the offenses, but yet you've got 4 games that we highlighted where the totals are pretty high, and it's kind of you throw out conventional wisdom. I do think we're going to see some upsets. Um, I'm just ready to go, right? I know we'll do a deeper dive tomorrow, but I'm ready to go. I know we'll do this tomorrow, deeper dive. We'll get into a little more of some of our player props as well, but it's going to be fun. Kick it off in a couple hours, Kansas City and Baltimore, and then you got the Eagles and Green Bay in Brazil. And then the overreaction that typically is Lloyd's going to join us throughout the season on BYP, also with the drive with Vance's view. So again, we got a lot of stuff to dive into. Give him a follow on X at Lloyd Vance, as well on Facebook, Lloyd Vance, and follow him and tune in every Monday, 8 o'clock with Lloyd Vance's Inside Football on Sports Radio 1029 FM, The Game. And oh, by the way, we are powered by our good friends at Play It Again Sports and Fresh Roasted Coffee. We will do it again, manana on the drive. Always appreciate a couple moments. And as always, as we like to say, if you say it, you play it. If you back it, you're going to stack it. Appreciate you jumping on this edition of BYP, pal.
All right, Q. Talk to you later.